Welcome to This Is Not My Show. I'm your host, Dewana Bradley. We're so excited as this month we are celebrating Juneteenth. To check out Juneteenth history and to learn a little bit more about what Juneteenth is all about, go to www.iowajuneteenth.org. Happen to be the general chairperson for Juneteenth, and we have a many of sponsors who are really instrumental in making our day a success. And so we are grateful to have Jackie Easley with MercyOne. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a sponsor of Juneteenth. And so just talk a little bit about your role with MercyOne.
Well, I am the Division Director for Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. My responsibilities include all of our health equity initiatives, actually beyond Des Moines, at our 20 sites in Iowa. So I really have a focus on making sure that our community health and well-being is really being optimal for all of our folks. And as you remember during COVID, yes, I was out there with the message how important it was for all of the interventions, yes, because I believe in saving our community because we don't always get that information through traditional sources.
Yeah, you were very instrumental in making sure that people knew to get their vaccinations and
Absolutely.
Understood. You kind of dispelled those myths versus
Absolutely.
facts when we talked about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
And
we're really grateful for your work and really encouraging people that those vaccinations were safe, even though I know we still hear all kinds of things about the vaccinations, but I do believe they save lives.
I do think so too. I think we were helpful in people really at least seeking a source to get trusted responses. But this is just a part of MercyOne's more than 100-year legacy. Wow. In about 1893, the Sisters of Mercy, and I always like to emphasize that our organization was founded by immigrant women.
Wow.
Immigrant women who came to this country with the God mission. They felt that they were driven by God to provide health care for vulnerable populations. They were most concerned about individuals in those early days who didn't have access to resources that maybe some of our private facilities were offering. And one thing that I am proud about at Mercy in our long-standing history is we were the first to hire a full-time African-American medical staff person. Most physicians at that time had privileges, what they called privileges at different hospitals, but African Americans, it was rare to have the privileges at our various hospitals. So Dr. E.T. Scales, who by the way is the grandfather of someone that a lot of people know, Dr. Dennis Zachary, was the first to have privileges at a hospital here in Des Moines, and it was at Mercy. Later he did join Broadlawn, so we're appreciative that he was able to serve many populations in Des Moines through those privileges. But that just is a small part of the reason why I believe the Sisters of Mercy yet today want us to continue that legacy of providing care to vulnerable populations, those who do not have the resources. Dr. Scales eventually became chief of our medical staff in 1954. Again, trailblazer in that area. And I believe that because he broke those type of barriers, today we have folks that span all different clinical areas. Dr. Connor, I think of him being the first African-American medical director in Iowa at Polk County Health. And so I'm sharing this information to share why we became a sponsor of Juneteenth, because it is in our legacy to make sure that we are community facing and that we represent all different types of history within the community.
Yes, and recently Mercy is with now Trinity Health. And
Absolutely, and Trinity is a national Catholic organization located in Detroit, Michigan. And we are blessed because of our affiliation with Trinity, because they too have this strong commitment to ensuring equity for all. And as we speak, Trinity is organizing among our hospitals across the nation an activity called Strides for Freedom, where on Juneteenth, on the actual day itself, many of my colleagues across the Trinity system will be celebrating the day by doing a march around their facilities and making sure that that history is not forgotten, why we celebrate Juneteenth, and particularly for healthcare, because there has been such an egregious representation throughout history through Tuskegee, through Henrietta Lacks, that we need to, as healthcare professionals, make sure that we are sensitive to the issues that impacted that lack of distrust.
Yeah. No, I think that's very important. And it's almost like, righting the wrongs, which I really appreciate is that, we have organizations like yourselves who realize what history is, the true factual pieces of history and what happened to individuals and people of color and how they were utilized, but that now you are taking the opportunity to stand by them, elevate them, but also support the work that they're doing as well.
Absolutely. And again, going back to MercyOne's history, because of some of the malfeasance that has occurred in clinical history, we have lifted up what we call our health equity initiatives. I recently spoke at a conference, the March of Dimes, Advancing Health Equity Summit, where I spoke about MercyOne's initiative called Grow Baby Grow, which has been featured in the Urban Experience. We are absolutely thrilled to have had that opportunity. But Grow Baby Grow, again, attempts to, we know there is a historical mistrust of healthcare, and particularly as we look at that disparate gap of Black maternal health mortality and infant mortality. We are seeking interventions. We work alongside Count the Kicks, which has an app that is designated for fetal movement. We've hired a community health worker who is dedicated solely to our patients and providing them resources so that they can have successful deliveries.
Yeah, and that's so important right now. And I think you mentioned the key thing is about this lack of trust that we tend to have with health organizations and not wanting to go in or having bad experiences and not being taken care of. So I think that Grow Baby Grow is such a wonderful thing for people to be able to have access to.
Thank you. And a highlight for me, if I could share, is one of the speakers at the conference was Tanya Jackson Lee. Tanya is a passionate champion of Black maternal health equity. She produced a documentary called Aftershock, which shows real life situations where women, just as you're explaining, felt that they had not been heard in their maternal health issues. And Tanya's goal is that health providers, such as Mercy and others, really listen to their stories. And I think how it has permeated in our work is we have training for all of our maternal health nurses, PCTs, all of our providers, and it is called Respectful Maternity Care, where they learn how important it is to listen to, an example being one of our nurses the other day said, I'm using some of the tools, I'm explaining to my patients what I'm doing, I'm touching this part of your body for this reason, instead of just acting. And she said that makes a world of difference in establishing that relationship. And Tanya Jackson Lee, by the way, if the name sounds familiar, is the wife of Spike Lee. So she has...
She wrote they did the book.
She wrote a book called Please Baby Please, where we get our Grow Baby Grow theme from.
That's right.
I got to share that with her.
Yes.
You should have seen a smile on her face. She said, that's where you get... I said, yes, and I said, women do understand that when I say it comes from Please Baby Please.
Yes, that's right. When you were saying it, I'm like, that. It sounds familiar. I've heard that. That's exactly what it is. That's great.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Are there any other initiatives that Mercy is embarking on right now that you'd like to share about?
Well, of course, cancer is an area that we have the Mission Cancer Center, or the Deming Mission Cancer Center. And of course, we're always interested in providing education awareness about prostate cancer, which, as you know,
so important.
affects our community at disparate rates. We will be looking at hypertension, do a deeper dive into how we can do some interventions, because that's another area.
Yes.
So many of our COVID patients, unfortunately, had so many of these pre-existing conditions, which led to them having negative results from COVID.
Yes.
So I believe that looking at ways that we can look at hypertension, maybe diabetes, kidney disease,
Yes.
those are all things that can save our community if we have proactive preventive measures.
Yes, and that's going to be so important
Yes.
that we look at those preventative measures and what are some
Absolutely.
things that we have control of that
Absolutely.
we can do
Yeah.
to be a part of that.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about MercyOne before we wrap up?
Well, I did want to say that in addition to the clinical work that we
Yes.
do, we also are proud to be a part of our urban community. And Mercy provides an opportunity for some of us to volunteer with the 6th Avenue corridor. I'm just so pleased, and I don't want to steal the thunder of our new executive director,
Yes.
but we have just been named a Main Street America designated site,
Oh,
which
that's
means that
amazing.
we will have resources dedicated
Yes.
to the 6th Avenue area, which you
Okay.
know
Yes.
is kind of a transformational
It is.
area. And Center at 6 is going to be a wonderful gym, I think, for the
Yes, it will
community,
be.
Marquise Anthony. And so Mercy is just a proud 6th Avenue member of 6th Avenue and
Yeah.
proud to support the corridor.
Yeah, and a great staple of 6th Avenue too. You know, Mercy.
We are the largest
been there.
employer.
Yeah, I was like, you've been there and you've been a staple of that area, and it's become better place because of the work that you're doing as well.
Well, thank you.
And so we want to just say thank you, and thank you to MercyOne and Trinity Health for continuing to be a sponsor of Iowa Juneteenth and the work that we're doing. And make sure that if you want to look into the work that's going on at Mercy Health, your website that anyone can look at.
Yep, sure, www.mercyoneiowa.org.
All right. Make sure to check MercyOne out and the great things that they're all doing. Happy Juneteenth to you all. I hope you have an opportunity to get out there and spend time with family, friends, have that barbecue, play some games, have a good time, and make sure you know your Juneteenth history. Again, check out iowajuneteenth.org for the latest information, and we'll see you next time with This Is Not My Show.